A reckoning is coming, as promised by Donald Trump in a new message today, as well as new testimony that apparently has the Attorney General of Minnesota taking bribes to stop investigations on these Somali scams. This is, for all the nothing ever happens people, I get you. Still, I think you could probably say nothing has happened yet. But if these tapes are real, as they claim, as the Trump administration has claimed, I would argue that someone's going to jail. And Tim Walz, also, according to reports, will be facing articles of impeachment today. Now, I don't know if they will have already been out by the time you see this video. I don't know. I record, it's 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time right now. Let's start with the Donald Trump message. By the way, just real quick, if you're in the market for a new PC, Meta PCs, promo code The Quartering, link in the description to save. Get it now before RAM prices get even more insane. You can custom build. They have military discounts. They have all sorts of amazing stuff. And Meta PCs have been a long sponsor of the channel. Link in the description. Just remember promo code The Quartering at Meta PCs, and you'll get a nice discount. Fear not, the great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. Do the people of Minnesota really want to live in a community where there are thousands of already convicted murderers, drug dealers, addicts, and violent people released, and escaped prisoners, dangerous people from foreign mental institutions and insane asylums, and other deadly criminals too dangerous to even mention? All the patriots of ICE want to do is remove them from your neighborhood and send them back to the prisons and mental institutions where they came from, in foreign countries who illegally entered the USA through Sleepy Joe Biden's horrible open border policy. Every place we go, crime comes down. In Chicago, despite a weak, incompetent governor and mayor fighting us all the way, big improvements were made. Thousands of criminals were removed. Minnesota Democrats love the unrest and the anarchists and the professional agitators that are causing it because it gets them the spotlight off the $19 billion that was stolen by really bad and deranged people. Fear not, the great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. What is he referencing? Well, there's a couple of things here. There are evidently some disturbing tapes of Attorney General Keith Ellison of Minnesota, in meetings with people who donated to him, them calling for political favors to stop the Somali investigations. Listen to this.
That's part of following the money. There are evidently some disturbing tapes of AG Ellison in meetings with people who donated to him, them calling for political favors to stop the investigations. So we'll see. But again, I don't want to get out ahead of the investigations. It's going to be very methodical. And Chris, I can guarantee you, when the bear trap snaps, we're going to get these folks. And again, we're going to follow the money, whether it's over the two counties here, in Minneapolis, St. Paul's, or whether it's to East Africa. And there's tons of luxury properties, cars that have been bought over there. And how the hell did this happen? How did it happen?
Yeah, good question.
President Trump is outraged. I'm outraged. The American people should be outraged. That's part of it.
And we are. This is one of the most universally. The thing is, if you believe all the noise you see on X, from these slacktivists, you would think, oh, half the country is against these ICE raids. Not even close. I'd be willing to bet you that there is a near 85% approval rate on ICE raids. 80% probably. And it is just one of the most, outside. We know because the election was talking about border security, and that was the most popular thing other than probably Doge and Maha. But to make things worse, Byron Donald's going absolutely off on Tim Walz today, and all he can do is mumble. Listen to this.
Is it the responsibility of ICE to actually deport illegal aliens in the United States who are here? Isn't that their responsibility?
Yes, it is, Congressman, except that the The Constitution is not an inconvenience. It's not an either or.
Nobody
You
said
can
an
do your
inconvenience.
job and
He have a
practice due
responsibility to deport illegal aliens, and the
Through due
president is
process.
going through that process right now.
We are
And
not
let's
just-
be very clear, the previous administration, they abused every process there is under border laws to allow more than 10 million people into the country illegally. And this is a burden on all Americans. And so the president is doing his job. So it is sick to refer to Americans who are ICE agents as Gestapo. Governor, you're wrong. You need to apologize to these agents. They're doing their jobs.
A lot of the rhetoric that has, it's their playbook's basically always the same. First, they dehumanize their enemies, and in this particular case, it's ICE. Why is ICE viewed any different than the ATF? Well, the DEA or the FBI? I mean, look, I'm with you. Disband it all, blah 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 blah. But for whatever reason, ICE agents are singled out and dehumanized and such to a point where, people feel totally justified attacking them in the streets. And it starts with rhetoric from people like Tim Walz and that Mayor McCuck, whatever his name is, and Gavin Newsom, who are referring to these people as like foreign occupying forces in their cities.
They are Americans. They serve this country with honor and decency and respect. Do not diminish their work simply because you tried to make a cheap point that you could tweet. I yield back.
Then you also have, so Walz is on the Hill today. Also, Representative Ben Davis now reporting that articles of impeachment for Tim Walz have been officially drafted. I mean, I guess, he has to be impeached and removed, obviously. The Trump administration needs to have basically 100% of their eye on this, the Sauron's eye of the GOP, because this is how they're going to win the midterms, is just keep tearing apart Minnesota. The second you're done there, you go right to California, you start tearing that apart. And you just go to the, these Democrat strongholds, Seattle, Portland, and just start tearing the corruption apart. Now, this isn't to say that there isn't corruption and, wasted funds in Republican states. I guarantee there is. I just said, this is how Republicans win the midterms. I want it gone in the Republican states too. But, why don't you focus on, Seattle, California, other Democrat strongholds, maybe on the East Coast, and just show the people how they're wasting their tax dollars, because this is something that is universally hated by everyone because just about everyone pays taxes. Now, this says Walz has been accused of obstructing investigations into Minnesota Somali fraud. A Minnesota Republican state representative confirmed to Blaze News that articles of impeachment are being drawn up for Governor Tim Walz and will be released as soon as today. The failed Democratic vice president candidate has been assailed over the past months over accusations that he obstructed law enforcement efforts to stop massive Somali fraud. The scandal could have cost the government billions of dollars. Tim Walz should resign, and if he doesn't resign, he's probably going to leave in handcuffs. We are going public with them, I believe this week, maybe even tomorrow, said State Representative Ben Davis, who is also a pastor. Davis said that Republicans have been telling Walz directly to intervene against the fraud, and he has refused. Fraud is happening. Fraud is going on. You need to put tighter levers on this, and he's done just the opposite. Walz previously announced that he would not be seeking a third term in office and cited the fraud accusations while continuing to deny any involvement. As I reflected on this moment with my family and my team over the holidays, I came to the conclusion that I cannot give a political campaign my all. I assume he thought / hoped that, resigning would get rid of this, get rid of any kind of prosecution that he may be facing. Every minute I spend defending my own political interests would be a minute I can't spend defending the people of Minnesota. Well, Walz needs to step down, saying he will stay on to investigate is like O.J. Simpson saying he will investigate the murder of his own ex-wife, says Republican Tim Burchett of Tennessee. It's not going to be Minnesota nice. I'm going to be Minnesota real, said House Majority Whip Tom Emmer of Minnesota in a recent podcast. Tim Walz should resign, and if he doesn't resign, he's probably going to leave in handcuffs. Well, he should resign anyway. This is the thing that, here is more about Illhan Omar perhaps being involved.
Congresswoman Illhan Omar and State Attorney General Keith Ellison. We know that they have connections with convicted fraudsters. The question is, were they merely complicit in these schemes, or were they part of a broader conspiracy? We don't have strong evidence now, but I think people are starting to take a look.
Well, what we do know is that Ellison promised these guys he'd make the investigation go away, and then he got money as a donation. We know that whistleblowers alerted the Walz administration, and he didn't take any action. And we know a couple of these people, like Omar, got money from these convicted fraudsters as political donations. Are you saying that there could have been a conspiracy to move the welfare fraud money into their war chests?
Possible.
It's certainly possible. And I think the person, and really I'm grateful for it, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has all the tools at his disposal to actually investigate the money trail.
Bessent is kind of a rock star, at least in my opinion, at least lately,
to figure out how the money flowed between these fake nonprofits and Somali fraudsters and Minnesota politicians. And I'll tell you, the atmosphere in Minneapolis was electric. I mean, people had the sense of anticipation. Something big is coming. And look, I hope they get to the bottom of it, because we're talking about, some estimates upward of $9 billion stolen. These politicians seem to, at a minimum, have turned a blind eye to the fraud, or even directed people below them to take steps so that it wasn't uncovered. This scandal is not over, and I think it could end with significant action. And again, I think Secretary Bessent is the right man for the.
I mean, you talk about this too. Minnesota AG Keith Ellison is worried about ICE costing the state millions of dollars, but he didn't bat an eye at the billions of dollars in welfare fraud. Quote, in just 2 days responding to the chaos, ICE has cost the city nearly $2 billion in law enforcement and overtime expensive. 2 days. And I wish I could stop there, but I can't, because these are poorly trained, aggressive, armed agents of the federal state. I mean, are you joking? First of all, they're just, look at this person. What's going on with her face? I mean, Scott Bessent is out there trying to play tough guy. I don't really think the 600 officers that they have are costing $3.3 million a day each officer. He's just making up money. And again, the Minnesota legislative auditor confirms that Tim Walz employees fabricated records to cover up fraud. They did 0 site visits to locations that received hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars per year. Absolutely seismic. Going back to Illhan Omar, again, there's possible involvement with her in the Somali scandal. Homeland Security writing, Tim Walz has refused to cooperate with ICE and released nearly 470 criminal illegal aliens back onto the streets of Minnesota to terrorize Americans. It's common sense. Criminal illegal aliens should not be released back onto our streets. We are calling on Tim Walz to cooperate with ICE. Let's see, again, going through sharing all these cruelty towards a child. I mean, they're doing a great job sharing just how terrible, just how terrible the people are that are getting arrested. I think most Americans want ICE to continue their work. And I'm sure that Tim Walz we're going to see if he gets impeached today. This could be pretty big. Make sure you keep it locked in here. You click that subscribe or follow button down below the video. We'll talk to you again real soon.